Earlier this week, in Stockholm, which is Sweden's capital, there's been a string of murders as well as domestic terrorist attacks. Seemingly all of it, certainly most of it, is gang related. There's two gangs that are particularly active in Stockholm, Sweden. They're in some kind of gang war, gang feud, and with that, gang members, along with innocent members of the public, are being killed. So we're told on Wednesday of this week, an 18-year-old rapper was executed on a sports field. We're not really given too much details in regards to that murder at this point, certainly within this one article that I've gone through. Was he a gang member? Don't know. He was a rapper. I listen to Chicago drill rap music. They all seem to be gang members. So I wouldn't be shocked to learn that this guy was also a gang member, but we don't know that for sure. Either way, an 18-year-old rapper was executed on a sports field. Another man was shot dead elsewhere in the city, a different part of the city, Stockholm, Sweden. And there was a bomb blast which devastated a group of townhouses in which a 25-year-old woman who was a master's student planning on becoming a teacher was killed in the blast. She was not a gang member. She was a completely innocent member of the public, but her neighbor was a gang leader known as the Purple Fox. He was the target of the domestic terrorist attack. By the way, the article doesn't mention the term domestic terrorism. That's me throwing that in there. The article just tells us that the building, the group of townhouses, were incredibly damaged due to an explosion, which again killed a 25-year-old woman. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in all things Sweden, but I have kept somewhat of an eye in regards to the decline of Sweden. Since around 2015, 2016, there's a Twitter account, Peter Sweden. I used to follow him for a while. He makes some videos here and there. And he used to talk a lot about immigration. Yep, I said it. Immigration. Mostly refugees from various countries. Again, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. It's not something I've looked at for quite some time. But since the massive increase in immigration of refugees from various parts of the world, crime has spiraled. Gangs have formed and cemented themselves within Swedish society, and obviously not for the good. I'm no expert in gangs, but seemingly these gangs are fully armed, they have machine guns, they have explosives, and they are in the business of protecting their trade, or rather trades. So the article mentions the drug trade, the article mentions the gun running trade, but also there's sex trafficking, there's perhaps organ harvesting, if we're to allow ourselves to get conspiratorial. There are other trades that gangs are involved in, none of which are beneficial to society. So my understanding is that Sweden was a relatively safe country just a couple of decades ago, but now that's seemingly no longer the case. I've heard Sweden has been referred to as the R capital of the world. YouTube doesn't like me saying the word R. And then you've got all these shootings, now you've got explosions going on. Sweden is in severe decline. Your quality of life is not what it once was. There has been a political response. I'm not going to pretend that I've followed that overly closely, but one thing that's mentioned within this article is that the Justice Minister has declared that it will increase the penalty for possessing explosives without a permit from 3 years to 5 years. So this is the Justice Minister taking a strong stand against these ridiculous criminal gang domestic terrorist activities. Hey guys, if you're fucking around with explosives and you're not allowed to do that, you're not a demolition expert or you're not a fireworks expert, if you're fucking around with explosives because you plan on blowing people up, blowing buildings up for this cause, that cause, to further your drug trade or whatever it happens to be, we're going to come down really hard on you and we might jail you for 5 years. I mean, that's just pathetic. That's a pathetic response. So Sweden's politicians might well be front and center in press conferences announcing that they're finally going to take a strong stand, but that does not strike me as being a strong enough stand by quite some way. It would make sense to me that if someone's caught in possession of explosives without a permit, you throw the book at them. That person's a fucking psycho. That person's a terrorist. Or at least that's what they're hoping to be. So you throw the book at them. You lock them up for a very, very long time. 3 years, 5 years is not a long time. You lock up a gang member, a terrorist for 5 years, then let them go. What's going to happen? Oh yeah, they're going to go straight back to their ways. They're going to be welcomed back into their gang community, their terrorist community, whatever it happens to be. And they're going to be enabled to go ahead and do the whole thing again. There is more information out there. The incidences that happened that I've mentioned within this video occurred a few days back. This is not a comprehensive analysis by any means. It's just really a bit of a touching base with this subject. And I don't have any real conclusions, any real solutions other than saying, in my opinion, the authorities need to get fucking serious. They can't just say they're going to get tough and then not do anything or not do much. They got to get proper serious. Surely they have intelligence. Surely they have some understanding of who the gang members are, what their activities are, how they fund their organizations, etc., etc. And if the authorities don't have that intelligence, they need to significantly improve their practices. They must have that intelligence. That's what they need to concentrate on. They need to concentrate on throwing resources, hopefully effective resources, at improving their understanding of the gang activity and the domestic terrorist activity that's occurring within their country. And then on top of that, they need to take very firm action. They need to be tough on the criminals, on the gang members, on the domestic terrorists. They need to be tough. You can't make an omelette without cracking a few eggs, and with that I mean I'm all for handing police certain leeway to go ahead and solve these problems. And if that means they've got to be a bit rough and tumble with quite a few people, and perhaps some people that are on the periphery of the criminal gangs also get dealt with a heavy hand, then in my mind, so be it. This is for the greater good. At the moment, Sweden, as far as I can tell, is at least somewhat overrun by organized criminal gang activity, by organized domestic terrorist activity, and that is not going to decline until and unless there is serious action taken. Frankly, if I was to look at this logically, I would think nothing's going to happen. Things are just going to get worse. Look at other European countries, they're in much the same way. They're all in severe decline. The beauty of these cities are gone. The security of these countries are gone. It's not just Europe, of course, but this is a pretty sad example because Sweden ought to be one of the best countries in the world, and I'm not sure if that's the case anymore. Anyhow, that's all I've got to say. As I say, there is going to be better coverage, providing more facts and better analysis than I've done, but it is what it is. I've kind of enjoyed going over this topic, so I'm going to wrap things up at this point. If you appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. If you're in a position to consider joining my memberships, please do. If you're not, that's perfectly fine. I've just thought perhaps I will make a few different types of videos, perhaps not 100% true crime, just branch out to a couple of other things that strike me of interest. Perhaps I'll do that. We'll see. But I'll wrap this video up for now. Thank you for listening. Take care.